Lights down, cameras hunting, an envelope breathing in someone's hands. Two names float above the stage like rival constellations. Raphinha and Ousmane Dembélé. One is chalk and scalpel. Hold the paint to stretch the block, cut the artery when it opens. The other is chaos refined, ambidextrous feints, acceleration like a game set to turbo, a defender's hips turned into question marks. If best in the world is more than a trophy line and actually a definition, which season deserves the crown? Tonight isn't about myth. It's about what the game looked like when it needed a grown-up, and what it felt like when it needed a spark you can't coach. Start with the only honest way to measure greatness across a season: convergence. Numbers matter, but only where they intersect with usefulness. Consistency matters, but only when it shows up in big games. Style matters, but only when it changes what the team can do. Through that lens, production that repeats, availability when legs are heavy, decisions in matches that define months, and the effect a player has on the system. Two different stories emerge that somehow live on the same pitch. Raphinha's story begins before the first pass, with the instruction that sounds simple and feels cruel. Hold the touchline, boots on chalk. Ignore the tug to drift inside for touches, because width is leverage, and leverage is how you dismantle blocks without a single dribble. So he waits, and that patience is a provocation. The fullback cheats a meter, the centre-back glances, the pivot shades toward the lane. With one shoulder check, he is either bursting behind on the diagonal or receiving to feet on his far foot, first touch already solving the second. That first touch is the quiet signature of his season. It rarely goes viral. It routinely wins phases. His value lives in patterns that coaches can plan around. The low, skidding cross to the penalty spot. The silent ball defenders hate because it asks a single late touch from a striker. The third-man release after drawing a double team. The sprint pattern in the press that angles out the pivot first, forcing a pass wide where traps wait. Under the hood, analysts see the uptick in progressive receptions in the right half space, the steady rise in expected threat added, the drop in low-value giveaways, the pressures that turn into shots. On the screen, fans see something simpler. When he plays, the team breathes easier in possession and bites harder in transition. When he sits, the pass map may still hum, but the knife looks duller. Dembélé's season speaks a louder dialect. The scouting report has to write "both feet no tell" in bold because the usual cues, hip tilt, plant angle, ball carry line, lie as often as they inform. He receives square, sells inside with the same truth as outside, and goes wherever your weight is a fraction slow. Double the mark. Sometimes it only doubles the damage, because the chaos is not random anymore. It's trained. The decision after the second man arrives, square to the late runner, slip pass to the blind side, or the drive that forces a panicked block, carries more calculation than his reputation ever allowed. His pace setters in training would tell you the difference now is the pre-move scan and the choice to keep a possession alive when risk is vanity. The result is a gravity you can feel from the cheap seats. Opponents hold their lines 2 meters deeper, fullbacks dare less, pivots shade earlier, and through that collective flinch, teammates eat. But greatness cannot live on highlight clips alone. It needs time on the grass. One of the truths of the year is simple: the best ability is availability. Raphinha's argument is strongest here, not because he never missed a minute, that S-fiction, but because the gaps were brief and the returns were quick. He built a rhythm: lose, reset, miss, sprint back 10 meters. And by a foul, force it once, go simple next touch, wall pass, move, receive behind. Coaches trust players who self-stabilize. He did. Dembélé's case asks a different question. How long did the chaos stay on tap without interruption? Did the long weeks string together? Did the biggest nights arrive with his legs in full color? When they did, matches tilted. The film shows fullbacks guessing wrong on pure fear, markers freezing on the second touch that never comes, the third step that blasts through a seam the camera didn't expect. When they didn't, we were left with a team that missed the elastic band on the right. Big games are the jury you can't charm. In derbies and continental knockouts, the air is thinner and choices slow down or speed up depending on your pulse. Raphinha's stamp is the refusal to disappear. He yo-yos his height, posting on the last line when space is behind, dropping below pressure when escape is needed, so that the system always has a release valve. In matches decided by a single good idea, he often is the idea. The half-beat pause before the low cutback, the two-touch combination that turns a double into a decoy, the early shot across a keeper who spent the whole night leaning far post. Dembélé's signature is the unscriptable. When a lockdown block begged for something no whiteboard could provide, a two-footed feint and a burst through a seam that didn't exist 5 frames earlier changed the temperature in a stadium. Some seasons are about having the right tool in a drawer. Some seasons are about having electricity in your hands. There's another layer the public doesn't always applaud, because it doesn't always look like art. The work without the ball that changes what the game becomes. Watch Raphinha's shade run, half a meter to take away the easy switch, which buys 3 seconds for the press to set. Watch the near post dart that never receives but drags a centre-back just enough to open the cut-back lane for someone else. Watch the tactical foul that snips a transition at midfield and lets his team reload. Add them up across months and you get a team that concedes fewer bad counters and arrives in the final third with numbers. With Dembélé, watch the defensive line adjust to his potential, not just his action. Fullbacks who would bomb forward, stay home a pivot who would step into the half space. Hesitates a centre-back who would squeeze up, leaves his striker onside. The freeze frame where 2 markers lean toward him and the ball goes somewhere else is worth points you'll never attribute to his name in a box score, yet cannot deny in your memory. Injury and temperament are the truths that round any argument. Raphinha's red mist moments, a rushed shot from a poor angle, a hot word with an official, existed, and the fix was mechanical, not mystical. Head up pre-shot, count 1. Argue with legs, not hands. Dembélé's long history of interruptions will never be erased. It can only be outnumbered by months of availability. In 2025, the fair accounting is this. Did he deliver long, clean blocks? When he did, the peaks were higher than almost anyone. When he didn't, the case depends on how much you value the mountains over the plateaus. So who deserved it? The honest answer depends on what you think best in the world means. If your definition favors a player who made his team play better every day, clear roles, fewer wasted phases, smarter, pressing the repeatable architecture that turns close games, then the case leans toward the winger whose quiet pre-shot touch and silent crosses kept paying rent. If your definition favors the weeks when a single player rewrote match geometry, no matter the plan prepared for him, ambidextrous inevitability, sprints that ripped weeks of scouting in one action, a kind of terror that buys space for everyone, then the argument tilts toward the two-footed storm who made opponents defend possibilities rather than actions. The most revealing scenes of the year were not the viral ones. They were the sequences that started with nothing, recycled to the right back, crowding in the box, a defense that looked comfortable, and turned into probability. Raphinha's version: shapeshift height, receive far foot, tiny outside nudge to tilt hips, skimmed pass to the penalty spot, tap in. Dembélé's version: square stance, inside look, outside touch, defender stuck between worlds, low drive across a keeper cheating a half-step net. Both are legitimate currencies in a game that pays out in goals and control. The award forces a choice you cannot make without bringing your philosophy to the table. Maybe the truest thing to say is that one season crowned 2 different virtues: the thermostat and the thunderclap. The tool that made the whole machine hum at a higher frequency and the voltage that blew fuses in stadiums built to resist. You vote not only for a player, but for a definition of excellence. Do you honor the one who tightened every screw and sharpened every edge until close games bent his way, or the one who walked in and redrew the lines men were paid to keep straight? Either way, you're not wrong about what you saw. You're declaring what you value, and if we're honest, a prize can end a night, but not a debate. The next game is the next piece of evidence. The next final is the next courtroom. The next season will ask both men the same question in a different accent. Can you be the reason your team looks inevitable? Some nights, inevitability will look like a low cross no one can defend. Some nights, it will look like a feint in two directions at once. The rest of us will argue because arguing is how we admit we care. The ball will roll, defenders will guess, and somewhere on the right flank a winger will hold the paint until the moment demands the cut. Somewhere else, another will defy prediction and make it all feel new again. If you're listening as the music swells and the envelope tears, you'll hear applause either way. You will also hear a whisper the cameras can catch. The game belongs to those who make time move differently. Sometimes that's a pause before a pass. Sometimes it's a sprint through a seam only one person believed in. This year gave us both. Which one you call best says as much about you as it does about them.